Well, hello there, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I thought I had a minute or two left, and I looked at my timer. There's a countdown timer, and it says 5 seconds. So, whoa, hello. So, welcome to our painting night live. We're going to be doing some swipe paintings tonight. Hopefully, they'll turn out wonderful and amazing, but you never know. But I've got 3 different demos I'm going to do tonight, 3 different types of swipes. 3 different mixing formulas. So there's a lot of stuff going to happen tonight, a lot of different things. I'm really excited to see what happens. I think they're all going to turn out fantastic. So, but welcome, Monique is here. Susan is here. Welcome. Carla is here. Awesome, Carla. Hello, you did a fantastic swipe. I just saw it on Facebook. Excellent swipe. That was like the advanced technique. Well done. You can teach the next swipe class, perhaps. So great job, Carla. So we're going to be doing, I got to just put my gloves on here. Actually, I'll put them on. I'll get prepared. So, but I've got a couple things to show you before we get going. And they'll be available for you in the members area afterwards. So having to do with color theory and things. So, all right. So got my gloves on. I'm ready to go. I've got all kinds of things everywhere. So it's going to be a fun demo night, I think. Behind me is this swipe painting right here, the small one. That's the one we did last week in the swipe walkthrough, and that's the dried results. It turned out pretty nice. Excuse me a second. I got to take a drink. Do you ever get that like tickle in your throat? It's terrible. So anyway, I've got it. But so, all right. So that was the small, like we did a lot of stuff with that swipe, but I think it turned out kind of neat in the end. And on the other side is the glue-based medium, the larger swipe painting I did. We're going to do something a little bit similar to that tonight, only with a little more advanced glue formula. It's my glue/varnish mixture. So I think that'll be a fun swipe demo. I'm going to do kind of the same thing with kind of a lot of abstract and wavy swipes and things like that. So that'll be our second one. And then finally, we'll end with the more advanced swipe with no silicone at all, just our thin paints. And hopefully it'll turn out pretty good. So, all right. So I'm sure other people will be joining us as we progress through the evening here. But let me flip the camera over. I've created something for you. Remember last week in the swipe walkthrough, I talked about color schemes and the tetradic color harmony. And I think a lot of your eyes probably glazed over and like, oh my God, what is this? So, but I created something for you. I think you'll enjoy it. So I'm going to show it to you right here. So let me flip the camera. I've got 2 different sheets that you can print out. There are actually 3 PDFs that you can get. One here, this is, I know you probably can't read them, but this is the tetradic color harmonies, the rectangular triads. And there are 2 different types of triads. There are a rectangular triad and then also a square or tetrad, I'm sorry. So a rectangular tetrad and a square tetrad. So I created these kind of cheat sheets for you. It has all of the rectangular tetrad color harmonies on it. Same with the square. There's only 3 for the square tetrad, and there's a whole bunch more for the rectangular one. And I created this. There's a third PDF that you can print out and cut out. It's a little guide that you can just pin to your page and just spin it around, and it'll kind of show you all of the different tetrads. 1 second. Sorry about that. That tickle. My gosh. Okay. Hopefully that'll go away. All right. So, so you can print out both of these PDFs, and then there's a third PDF that has the little spinning guide on it. And you can just print that out, cut out the circle, and then cut out these little squares. And then you'll be able to kind of stick it on your pages and look at all of the different tetrads you can get. And I just use like a push pin in here, and there's like a little piece of foam core in the back. But you could use like a brad, you know, pardon the, no pun intended. There's a little brad that you can buy at like office supply stores and things like that. You could just push through here and kind of flare the bottom out. That'd be perfect. And so there's, you know, 2 of them for you to play around with, just get some color ideas. And you can see what the different tetrads will look like. So these will be in with the swipe replay for tonight, and I'll also put them in the PDF, all the PDF resources, which, by the way, I have reorganized and made a whole lot easier to navigate. So I'm going to flip back here and welcome everyone else that's joined us. I see that Lily is here, and Pat and Tracy. So awesome. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I was just mentioning I created some color harmony sheets for you that you can print out, and just to look at and maybe get some color ideas. They're kind of fun. So, and it's a 4-color scheme, harmony, or 4-color harmony. But they can be really fun and spark a lot of ideas. And remember, these are all just like straight colors. You can always add white to these colors, black to these colors to lighten them or darken them. You can make them less intense by adding the complement, make them more neutralized. You can do all sorts of things. These are really just starting spots for you. So I hope you enjoy those, and they'll be waiting for you later tonight. So I'm going to move these aside. And okay, Kim is here. And Kim said the PDF section looks great. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I got right on that and reorganized it all. So, so I'm glad you like that. All right, so let's talk about some swipes, and let's talk about the first one we're going to do, the first demo. It's probably the most standard, kind of most straightforward demo. And let me show you this. I created a banner for it, and it's so you can just kind of see what the mixing formula is, and then I'll walk you through the colors. So it's going to be the easy swipe formula, which is pretty much just the easy formula for most of the pours we do. It's 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint, and water to get a slight mound, a very slight mound. And then we're going to put some silicone in the swipe color, and the swipe color only. And so what I'm going to do, I've got a 10 by 20 canvas. So I'm going to do a single swipe, like a full length swipe in one go. And then I'm going to tilt afterwards. And the color scheme, I'm going to try to do more of a gradated color scheme. So I've got some, I'll show them in a second, but some like an off-white, and then kind of a middle blue, and then kind of a turquoise, and then a really dark blue. So kind of an oceany theme. I'm not really trying to create like an ocean look, but kind of oceany colors. And then I'll have a decision for you on what color we'll swipe with. I've got gold, and I've got like a really dark kind of metallic blue, which is really pretty. So you think about that. We'll have to swipe with one of them. I'll let you decide which one. So, all right. So let's take a look at the colors here. Let me move the canvas forward, and let me flip the camera. And here we go. And by the way, I've got my big push pins on the back of this one. This is this 10 by 20. So let me take the lids off here. So I've got this is an off-white. So this is white with just a touch, with a really, really, really small amount of blue-gray in it. This is from Liquitex Basics. I love that color. So it's not white, it's just it's an off-white, kind of a cool white. And then I've got blue-gray, I'll put this right in the center, blue-gray with some more white in it to get it a little lighter right here. And then I've got this beautiful metallic cobalt blue from Artist Loft. This is such a pretty color. I use that all the time now. I really like it. And let's see. And of course, I've got gold. Gold right here. And then I've got this really dark, it's a really dark, it's metallic blue, like my favorite metallic blue, and a little bit of metallic black, both from Artist Loft, to get this really dark, it's almost like a really dark cobalt. Cobalt, it looks a little bit like turquoise. There's a little bit of black in the metallic black, so it's a really, really dark blue, metallic blue. So what I was thinking is I'm going to put white and then the middle blue and then the turquoise and then either the dark blue or the gold down here and then swipe with the other color. So to make more kind of a gradation. And then after I swipe, I'm going to do some tilting and kind of stretch it out a little bit. So we'll see what happens. So which should I swipe with? Carla is saying gold already, which I think is a great idea. So let me know which one you think I should swipe with. You don't have to decide at this second. I'll move these aside here in a moment. And let me pull my canvas down. Okay. So here we go. So I'm going to, just to kind of get things orderly, I'm going to just, I've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 colors. I've got 4 colors and 4 sections, and I'm going to flood the paint on, and in big bands, and then do the big swipe. But I want enough. You have to have enough paint to have the swipe, so there's enough to tilt. I'm sorry. So I want to kind of separate these and just kind of figure out where I'm going to put these bands. So I just have a pencil. I'm just making a couple little marks. These do not have to be perfect or anything, just to separate these bands so I can kind of get an idea of how big I want them to be. I think that looks pretty good. I got a little more white, which I like, and then this is a little smaller, and then those are about the same. I think that's pretty good. So I got my palette knife in case I need it. So here we go. I'm going to put the white on first. And just going to spread it around. Again, I want it to be a little thicker than I normally would if I was not going to tilt afterwards. So that's pretty good. That might be a hair much, actually. Let me take a little off. But again, there's no silicone in these colors, just the swipe color for this first one. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. I don't want too much paint on. I think that's pretty good. Pretty good right there. And of course, we'll tilt off some. So I got to keep that in mind. So there we go with the white. Next up are kind of middle blue. And I'm not going to blend these together too much. It's okay if they blend a little bit. I'm just trying to keep them a little bit separated. Just a big band, basically. And I think that looks pretty good. Then we're going to do our turquoise, or this is kind of like that metallic cobalt. Wipe my knife off. Okay. Again, oops. Again, that might have been a hair much. Cool. All right. So I got that. Come on now. There we go. And now I need to decide. And let me check the comments here. And I see Lily has a comment. Do you measure paint for canvas coverage for swipe? Not on this type of not really in this technique right here. Basically, I'm just eyeballing it. I'm covering the whole canvas. So so I don't really, you don't need to really calculate that as much, Lily, as you would for like a flip cup, let's say, where all the paint is in a cup and you kind of get one shot to do it. So this, I'm covering the whole canvas first. So I don't really have a calculation for that. Just kind of, you know, eyeballing the amount of paint on there. All right, let's see. So let's see, what do we have? Lily wants the cobalt. And Monique likes the cobalt. Tracy says, we are no help. That's funny. Oh my gosh. Pat wants the cobalt. Cool. Okay, cobalt. All right, so I guess it's cobalt. So that's kind of what I was thinking at the beginning. So the cobalt is what our swipe color will be. So let's put on the gold. And I'll wipe my knife off. I don't want to get a bunch of cobalt into the gold. Got a little bit in there. It's okay. Oops, there's something on there. Something snuck in there. Okay. So we've got our gold on. I think that looks pretty good. I'm not too, most of the sides got covered as I spread it around, but we're going to be tilting, so I think that will take care of any sides that are not covered right now. So we got our, geez, come on. There we go. We got our gold. So now I've got to add my turquoise or my silicone to the turquoise. I'm going to just use my regular tread, my Spot On treadmill belt lubricant stuff, the Spot On silicone. So let me put that up here. So I'm going to probably use about 6 drops. I probably should have put that in another cup, but oh well, it's too late now. I'll add another drop in there because now we'll have this big cup of this turquoise, this really dark turquoise with silicone. So that's all right. And give it a nice stir. That's pretty good. And now it's time to pour our band on. I'm going to pour a kind of a not a huge band, but a little bit bigger than I normally would if I was not planning on tilting, just because we'll be able to tilt some of that off of there. But I want to I want enough of the dark cobalt to spread across the whole canvas. So I think I'm going to use a little bit more paint. So here we go. That's pretty good. Now I can also tilt backwards a little here just to get it off of the back edge just before I swipe. And actually, I might put just a tiny bit more. All right. And for my swiping tool, I'm going to use my favorite swiping tool, my acetate sheet or my notebook binder sheet. But I got to get this out of the way first. So you got to clear room for your swiper to come off the back of your canvas. So here we go. Here's my swiper. This is one of those notebook dividers. I just taped it to my piece of foam core. I've used this one many times. And I have my little tape tab right here. So let's, I'm going to drop it into the puddle and then give it a nice pull straight back in one go. I got a little bit of canvas right here I gotta cover. And also right there. And also right here. Okay. All right, we are ready to do it. So I'm going to drop it in, not at the very edge, but inside maybe an 1/8 inch or so. And I've got good coverage on my plastic. And here we go. Oop, I got a little bit of, I wonder if those were air bubbles right there that popped. I think they were, yep. And that is it. So our swipe is done. We got some kind of larger right here. Those are little air bubbles, but I'm not too worried about that because we're going to do a little tilting now. So let that sit for a second while I just wipe off my swipe tool. There we go. And before I tilt, Carla has a question. It's a good one. If you stir less, you get bigger cells. Not necessarily. Not that I have found. Some people say that. I used to think that, but over time, I've found that they get pretty large, regardless of how often you stir. I tend to stir a little more now, just so I don't get huge globs of silicone stuck together. So I'm of the mind of stirring a little bit more rather than a little less. So, but that's a great question though, Carla. So, all right. Okay, so let's do a little tilting and see what we get here. I'm going to turn the banner off for a moment, and let's do it. So see how this will tilt around. And right away, I think I had my paints too thick. Because it's not moving as fluidly as I would like. And it's kind of getting stuck at the top. So that's not working as well as I wanted it to. But I'll just do the best I can. I think it's kind of a cool looking swipe. But it's not moving as much. So I either didn't have enough paint on there, or more than likely it was a little too thick. And I didn't have enough paint on there. So I'm not going to tilt as much as I wanted to, just because it's not moving around. So that's a bummer, but we can, alter and change these cells a little bit to make them look a little less, round in the standard kind of cell shape, but it's not moving as much as I thought. Shoot. Oh, well. Well, that is a shame, but I guess that's it. So that is going to be our first swipe. And it just doesn't have the movement that I wanted. So, but that's the way it goes sometimes. But I still like it. So I think it's interesting, pretty cool swipe. So I'll let you decide. We could do one of two things: just leave it as it is, or we could swipe it again. And I'm kind of thinking it'd be interesting to see what would happen if we swiped it with the gold. So let me know what you think. If not, we will move on to the next demo. So, let's see, any thoughts? Pat likes it. Carla likes it. Carla's all about the gold, which I love because I'm all about gold too. So, and Tracy's like, yes, go for the gold. Let's do it. All right. It's the Olympics, right? This is kind of like a wintry colors. Let's do it. I'm going to separate my gold first. Actually, how much is in here? Shoot, I'll just put it in. So there's some silicone. Let's stir it up. That looks pretty good. Now let's pour it on. I'm just going to do the same thing, basically. Band of gold. And then I will kind of tilt it back. Here, cover the corners. This one doesn't want to cover. I'll put a little more there. Oops, rolled right off. There we go. Okay, that's pretty good. Get my tool, and the great thing is I can reuse it again. I think I'm ready to go. I'm going to just drop it right in there. And let's swipe. That's pretty nice. Things tend to get a little more subtle if you do a double swipe, but we're still getting a lot of cells popping up in this one. I actually kind of prefer that one. I like that gold up the top, and it kind of is mirrored down at the bottom. It's kind of cool. So I'm not going to try to tilt this one just because I know I don't have enough paint and it's too thin. So I think I'm just going to let that one stay just like that. I think it's really cool. So, all right. And we have little like things right here, like on the edges that often happens with swipes. It's hard to have perfect swipes when you're dealing with like just a single swipe. But I think it looks pretty nice. You could always go back and touch this up when it's dry with a little bit of just gold paint or something like it, or use the colors that you have and touch things up if you don't like them. So I think I'm going to let that one go. I think it turned out pretty good. So we saved that one. I think I wasn't thrilled with that first one. I think this was a bit of an improvement. So, all right, let me move this out of the way and we'll get set up for our second demo. Okay, I'm back. So here is our second canvas. This is one of my panels. So it's a 14 by 18 panel. I've got it all prepped and ready to go. And this is going to be the glue-based formula. Let me throw that up on the screen here. So this is my glue and varnish formula. It's 3 parts Floetrol, 2 parts of the Nova Color varnish in medium, and that looks like this. If you can get it in these quarts or gallons. I usually get the gallons now because I use a lot of this for my panels. But this is what the gloss, medium, and varnish looks like. And then we need 1 part paint. So we use less paint in this formula. And then we're going to be using 3 to 5 drops of silicone in all of the different colors. So let me show you what I've mixed up here. So I've got a dark purple. This is what is this color? This is it's a pretty, like a metallic teal color. And I lightened it just a tiny bit with a little bit of a metallic white. So to get this kind of lighter metallic teal, this is a metallic purple, actually, with a little bit of black in it to get it a little darker. And you don't have to use a lot of metallics for this particular formula. I'm just using a few of them, but it's not a requirement. You can get great looking cells with just regular colors. This is a lot of copper and a little bit of pyrrole red in there to give it a little punch, a little more of a red punch, but it's mostly copper. And then I have this lighter, strange color. This is it's kind of like a pearl color. It's a metallic white with a little bit of green gray in it from Liquitex. So it's a very light, kind of a metallic green. And there's also gold in there. So where is my gold? So I put gold in there. And gold, mostly gold, green gray, a little bit of metallic white to get this kind of light green, kind of pearl, like a pearly color. Interesting color. So Susan is asking, where do you get the Nova Color varnish? You have to buy the Nova Color directly from Nova Color themselves. I can throw the link in the comments a little later. So, but yeah, they sell direct to the public, which is great because it's a professional quality of paints and mediums. But it's cheaper because they sell direct to the public. And so I will let you know, I'll throw the link up in there a little later. And Lily is asking, how much glue? Is there a substitute for Nova Color? Let's see. Well, there's glue, like 3 parts. I messed that up. So 3 parts glue, I'm sorry. There's no Floetrol in this formula. Just 1 second, let me fix that. Man, I messed that up. Just a second. 3 parts. Glue. Okay. Let's see. There we go. So 3 parts glue, 2 parts Nova Color varnish in medium, 1 part paint, and then the water to a slight mound, like kind of the normal consistency. And then we're going to put some silicone in all the colors. And, oops, sorry, let me leave that up there. But then Lily asked if there was a substitute. I'm thinking you could probably use, let me just think. I haven't tried it with Liquitex varnish. I think there is Liquitex used to make a varnish and medium like together. I don't know if they make that anymore, but that would be the closest thing. You could probably also use like a golden varnish, but both of those products are more expensive than the Novacolor. So I'd say Novacolor is probably the best. You could do this without any of the Novacolor at all. You'll get very similar results. Just to use glue and paint. So you could just use 2 parts glue, 1 part paint, and put silicone in there. You'll get similar results. But with this mixture, with the varnish included, you'll get a shinier painting, and the varnish can kind of create a little more interesting cells, I've found. So, and Susan is asking in medium. Well, they're both combined in one thing. So this is it might be hard to see, but it's a number 206 gloss, medium, and varnish. So it's like both of those things are in one formula. So it could be used as a medium if you wanted it to, or a varnish. I wouldn't recommend it as a varnish per se. I think I like the Liquitex varnish much better than this one, but it's a great product. So, all right. Let's see here. And Judith is asking, could you use Golden's gloss and varnish medium? And Joe Sonia's makes one also. You could give it a try. They probably would work very similarly. And so I would think, yeah, that could definitely work. Carla bought some, and she said it was $14 and then $14.50 to ship it to Florida. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's no free shipping with Novacolor. So you have to take that in consideration. I buy like paints and lots of things from them, but they're just up the road from me in LA. So it's very affordable for me to get that. But for you, it might be cheaper to get like a golden varnish and medium. I know there is Creative Inspirations also makes a varnish and medium. I have yet to try that though. It might work just as well though. So, all right. So yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of other things that you could probably substitute for the Novacolor. That's just what I happen to be using, and it's working really well for me. But you don't need it at all, really. You could just use, again, glue and paint, and you'll get similar results. All right. And then finally, these are the 4 colors. I'm going to swipe, I think, with this interesting color, which is, it looks very milky, but this is gold and a little bit of bronze from Liquitex. So it's gold and bronze together. And these paints look a little bit milky, especially this one, but that's because of the glue and it's because of the varnish and the medium and varnish together, because those are kind of milky colored. The glue is Elmer's School Glue, which is what I'm using in this one. So Elmer's School Glue. You could use the Glue All as well, Elmer's Glue All. But I'm using the School Glue. And but I'm not worried about that discoloration at all. Even the red and copper looks a little pale, but it's because of the kind of milkiness of of the glue and the varnish. But those dry clear. So when this is dry, the intensity of these colors will come back. So, all right. So let's put some paint on this thing and see what happens. And I've got a little tray right here. This is just a little plastic tray, and I'm just going to be squirting some water in there and then setting my paper towels to damp the edge. So, and I've got a whole bunch of my shop towels right here, and these are cut up in different sizes. I'm going to be doing kind of an abstract swiping with this one, so we'll see what we can get. I think it's pretty fun. Instead of just straight all the time, I think this is a really fun way to enhance the composition of our paintings. So, and the other thing I might do Let me move these aside here. I've got this little thing right here. This is a little, I use this mostly for string pulls, but it will work great for reverse dips as well, and especially multicolored reverse dips. So what this is, it's a little tray I've created. It's just a piece of this cardboard piece right here is just, you could use, I used an empty roll of wrapping paper and cut it in half. And you get this nice, curved, let me try to show it to you, like a nice curved kind of channel like that. And I just glued it to a piece of foam core. And then the white thing in there is just a strip of freezer paper. And you just put the freezer paper right in this little tube, and then I tape the edges. You just use a little Scotch tape and put tape on the edges. And we've got this little tray. And what I will do with this, I'll put different colors in here, and then you can dip your paper towels right in the reservoir, and it'll be like a reverse dip. So I might give this a try and do some multicolored reverse dipping. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to move this one aside. I'll move all these aside, actually. And the other important thing, I've got to do it right now before I forget. I've got to put silicone in all these paints. I haven't put silicone in any of them yet. That's incredibly important. Otherwise, it's going to be a real ugly painting. So I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4. About 5 drops. 5 drops in each one. And let me give those a mix up. And you'll notice when you use a glue-based medium, this is still relatively thin. I mean, it's got the slight mound. They just feel a little bit different than paints mixed up with Floetrol. But don't let that worry you at all. You'll get the hang of it if you want to use the glue medium. They just feel thicker, but they really aren't. It's just the glue. Okay, one left. And Carla's got a question, and I'll get to that in just one second. Okay, so Carla is asking, do you find that they thicken up faster as they sit? I have not noticed them thickening up too much faster than the Floetrol-based mixtures, but both of them will thicken up, especially if they're in a warm environment. Like my room right now it's pretty warm because I have all my lights on, my video lights, but also we're going through a Santa Ana, which means it's super dry and warm outside. So I have to be kind of careful and keep these covered if I'm not using them. So I mix them all up and cover them immediately so they wouldn't get dried out. But if you have a lot of paint, like a big cup of paint like this, it'll stay wet for quite a while. the thing to worry about is developing like a skin around the top or the thin parts around the edge. That can be problematic. Or if you have just a little bit of paint in your cup, that can dry out a little quicker. So hope that helps. That's a great question. So what are we going to do here? I'm going to just kind of throw some colors on and just swirl them around a little bit, maybe do a little tilting before we get into the swiping. And then, of course, after we swipe, we've got to torch. And the torching will generate the cells. So I've got no real idea about composition, so I'm going to just kind of move some paints around. Some darks maybe down here. Maybe I'll do something a little bit similar, like in a gradation type of a color scheme. Maybe some of this light, interesting green. But I want all the colors to kind of mingle together. So maybe I don't want to think about it too much also, because having all these things blending together can create some interesting cells when we start torching. So I'll just do a little tilt just to move some things around. And maybe I'll get rid of the banner right away. Okay, that's better. Put a little blue. A little more of the purple up here. So you can just I'm even going to use a little bit of the copper, even though I'm going to perhaps swipe with that. I might swipe with multiple colors. I'll put some of that in there. That's quite a bit of paint. So let's tilt it around, because I need to get the canvas covered. And this is a fun way to pour. This is basically direct pouring with our colors. I'll flip it around. Just tilting over the edges here. Maybe I'll put a little more down here. This can be very fun, just doing this. I love to just play around with dropping the paints, not thinking too hard about it. And then tilting is important because it always changes everything and can kind of make everything a little more cohesive. Okay, got a little more here. This interesting green color. Oops, that's a big old blob. I didn't want to do that. That's okay. So a little more tilting. And someone who's great at this technique or this particular kind of way of swiping is Gilly or Jilly Kubi from Australia. She's great at this. And just wiping my fingers off real quick. Another thing I might do is just a little, so I've got a little bit of corners here. A little bit of drizzling. I don't like the, we've got this big shape here. Not too concerned about the shapes too much, but I love to like drizzle with the stick. It makes things very interesting and fun. You get these little lines, and all these little things can kind of just pop up and create interesting looking cells and multicolored cells. Just fun. I'll do the same with some purple, perhaps. And you have to be very careful when you're doing this stuff because it's really fun. And you just want to keep doing it, but we've got to have a little restraint when we're doing the fun stuff like this. There we go. Okay, I think I'm having too much fun, so I got to stop. All right, and I've just got one edge here. Just cover that up. I think I'm ready to go with the or swiping. Let's see. All right. So now, time to do some swiping, and we can do a lot of different things. We could swipe without any swiping color. We could just do some dry swipes, and maybe I'll try a couple. I want to do a lot of different stuff with this one. I'm going to move my torch over here, and I need my squirt bottle. I'm going to use the paper towels, though, to do all the swiping. It grabs a little bit better and gives a little more texture when you're swiping with the paper towels. So here we go. I'm just going to do a little bit of dry swiping with no swipe color. And I'm just going to be pulling it in an interesting, just abstract way. And you can let it fall down the edge. It's difficult with swipes to kind of control the edges, but you can kind of let it fall down the side. But it's going to be a little tricky dealing with the edges. It's hard to get like all the edges swiped. So that's why I wanted to get them covered before we did the swiping. So that's one. We do one more of those. And I'm going to do a different size, though. It's always good to vary your size. This is, compositional stuff. Vary the size of your swiping tools. I'm going to not start on the down here. I'm going to start over here, maybe. This is just another dry swipe. I like that. Okay, let's do let me do I'll start with a single swipe with the color. So I'm going to have my little tray here. I'm going to put a little bit of this coppery bronze in there. Hopefully you can see that okay. Whoops. Just dump my paint over. All right. And I'm just going to take my paper towel, just dry, and just dip it in the color on both sides. And now we have a reverse dip swiper. And I'm going to just start it on the edge. And this is that copper and bronze, or gold and bronze color, excuse me. Cool. So of course you don't have to, do these weird swipes like I'm doing. You could just do this straight. You could do any number of things. I'm just kind of showing you a bunch of different options. I'm going to put a little bit of the dark purple in my little tray. I'm going to take a small piece of paper towel. Let's do a little one. So I'm going to start, where do we want to go here? Now, reverse swipes are a little more subtle than pouring the paint right on the canvas, because you have just a little bit of paint on your paper towel. Interesting. So Judy is asking, Judy's asking, let me throw it up here. Where was it? I'm surprised it isn't loaded with cells already. All those colors have silicone. Yeah, the thing with the glue is you need the torch to really bring them to life. We do have some cells, like there are some popping up, you can see them, but the cells will really emerge when we add a little bit of heat. So we'll get there in a second. I'm going to go switch to my bigger swipes, swiping paper towels, and we're going to do a big one. Now I'm going to do I'm just going to pour a color. Maybe I'll go with this right on the canvas and do a kind of a traditional swipe. I'm going to start kind of here. Maybe a little more. Oh, no. So I'm going to do like a center swipe. I need to wet that into this bronze. So I'm holding my paper towel straight up. It's kind of the easiest way. Then let it kind of rest and settle in there. Cool, I like that a lot. That added, see, doing something like that adds, you're dragging that color over the other colors. So you can give it a little more interest that way. So I'm going to do another one here. Oops. And I kind of like some of these, like with the drizzles, like peeking through there. I might want to leave some of those because they're looking very interesting to me. And let's see here. I've got another some smaller ones. And Carla is asking, is it the friction that helps create the cells? Absolutely, especially in the advanced technique that we're going to get to in a little bit. Friction is the entire reason that the cells are created, and that uses very thin paints, and the friction between the paints being kind of pushed and pulled together. The denser paints want to sink and find equilibrium with the lighter colors. So that's the whole reason, Carla, that the friction helps. That's really the whole point of cells. That's how they're really created, is the mechanical friction. So I find this very interesting, this interesting line right here. I think I want to leave that alone. I think I'm going to take, and I want to get some more darks. So I'm going to add some purple. And do some swipes with the darker purple color. So we're really creating something, very abstract here. I'm getting some ridges. That's okay. I'm going to do a little bit of kind of a zigzaggy swiping. I think that's kind of interesting. And we added like a straight element. This is not perfectly straight, but a little zigzaggy, but it's a little straighter. I always like to have curves and straights combined compositionally. It's much more interesting than having like all curves or all straights. Cool. See, again, I like this interesting line right here. In this one too, but I'm going to, I think, break this one up. So with the smaller, I'm just going to, let's see, getting a little water on my tool. I'm going to swipe kind of from the center here. There we go. I'm going to go with a double swipe. So I'm going to take, I have some, two colors in here. I'm going to do a double reverse swipe. Where do I want that? Something fell in here. Okay. I think I'll start kind of right here. And then you don't always have to go to an edge. You could always just kind of lift up if you want to and kind of end a swipe in the middle of your painting. This created kind of an interesting texture, kind of like that. So I've got some silicone right here that's hitting the panel, and it's causing some of the panel to show through. So I'm going to put something over that. What do I want? Maybe I haven't swiped with the blue yet. Let me put some blue in our little reservoir. We'll go to some do kind of a two-color. There's a two-color swipe. I'm going to start. You can start in the center too, which is a little riskier. But see, I think that's interesting. We created this interesting shape with the blue line. So I like that. I want to break some of this up. It's a little too muddy in here. I'm going to do exactly the same thing with those two colors. That's a little big. So here we go. I've got this blue and purple. I'm going to just start mid canvas. I don't want to go right in the center though. Got to be careful about that. So I want to go either to the right or the left, not dead center. I think I'll go here. And just lift it off. Okay, I think we're getting close to being ready to torch. I don't want to get too crazy with all these different things. This one, I like this a lot, but it's a little distracting. But I think I'll leave it. Although I want a little more of this color, this copper color, somewhere in here. I'm going to pour a little more because there's only really in this one area. I want to get it in a couple different areas. I think that's very cool. Okay. I like that a lot. So now we have, we've mirrored things. We've got like the kind of the blue and purple next to each other here and here. We've got this bronzy, goldy, coppery color up here and then down here. The rest, we've got darks. We've got some, lights. I'm letting little areas. I'm going to just leave this because I think that's really neat looking. Little areas just popping through from our original pour and tilt. I think it's time to torch it and see what happens. So I got my torch. Let's give it a shot. And I'm going to start slowly because the cells can take a little bit of time to develop. So here we go. And I'm kind of going down slowly with my torch and then pulling it back up. Let me see if I can switch the camera in quickly. You can kind of get a side view. Let me zoom in here. Let's see what this looks like. Let me adjust that. There we go. Okay, so maybe you can kind of see how I'm holding the torch and bringing it back up. Okay, so they're starting to emerge. I'm going to give it a second. I'll flip back to the top view camera so you can kind of see what is happening. And I'm sure it's probably impossible to see on camera, but you can see the silicone kind of burst when the heat hits it. And so I like to pull it back, and that has kind of activated the silicone in the glue medium. So I'm going to let that go for a minute and see what happens. I'm going to hit something right in here. We've got this great big like double cell happening. That was kind of a, a natural one that just popped up. I want to kind of have some more around it. So it's looking pretty cool. I think I need So this one takes a little bit of patience. You got to kind of wait and see what happens. Kind of let the cells do their thing. And also, these will expand larger, probably while we're doing the next swipe. And that's part of the varnish and the medium. They kind of like to grow and expand. So I think it's looking pretty cool. So that was we did a whole lot of stuff on this one, kind of threw everything at it. But I mean, this is a fun way of doing paint pouring. We're doing a lot of different things. We're making things that are more unique than a standard, technique. So we're just incorporating multiple swiping ways, multiple different techniques together. So this is a great way to experiment, explore, and perhaps, discover a style of paint pouring that suits you and that you love and that you can experiment with and work on. So let's see here. So we'll give it a little. And Lily is asking, does cells come out where you torch, not area you do not torch? Yes, basically any area that I'm heating up with the torch, cells like to bloom in that area. And it's some kind of reaction that has to do with the silicone and the glue-based medium. Those two together is what kind of creates these cells. And then the varnish, the Novacolor varnish medium, just kind of enhances the effects. And you can get kind of bigger cells, multicolored cells. So that kind of just enhances what the glue and silicone do together. So I'm liking this a lot. So I think I might stop right there. I don't see any areas. I don't like to have cells, blanketing, covering the entire thing. I like to have small open areas or areas of rest. Like I love this purple area in here, kind of like there's nothing happening. We've got some areas over here that are subtle and light, devoid of cells. So I don't like cells like covering everything. But they, again, will kind of grow as they sit here. So I think I'm going to call this one good. And I do like our little bits, like the little drizzling that are popping through. I think that's very interesting. Like up here, we got a little bit, up here a little. It just enhances the overall effect. There's a lot to look at in this painting. So, all right, I think I'm going to move this one aside. Maybe we'll take a look at it at the end. If it's changed any, I'll show it to you again. But we'll move on to our third and final demo. So give me 1 minute. Okay, here we go, our third painting. And I think I'm going to switch my gloves just because I've probably got silicone on them. And I don't want to get silicone in these paints because this is going to be our kind of advanced technique. How loose is this thing? There we go. So this is a canvas I worked on. I did some tests on it and then just scraped it or kind of just wiped it down just to give it a kind of a, I just wanted to kill the white basically. So it's just some acrylic paint that I just wiped off and just let dry. So, and that will, it does a couple things. It will prevent the white of the canvas from popping through, and it gives the paint a little bit something to grab onto. So, but let's take a look at the colors we're going to be using. So I've got black here. This is going to be our swiping color. And I've got gold. Let me throw up the formula. So this is the advanced swipe formula. It's really not that advanced, but 3 parts Floetrol, 2 parts Liquitex pouring medium, and 3 parts paint, and then water to like a no mound consistency. So it's pretty thin paint. So there's no mound or like barely any mound at all. It's not quite as thin as a Dutch pour paint, but it's very close. And like Carla mentioned before, the friction of these paints sliding against each other is what's going to create all the cells. And instead of the silicone, there's no silicone or additives in any of these paints. So, and then here's this is like a kind of a violet color I mixed up. It's a little bit of a silver, just regular old like Artist Loft silver, and I think metallic purple from Blick, like Blick metallic purple and silver, just to give this kind of light metallic violet. And finally, for a base coat, and I probably will use this in the to swipe with too, is a mixture of silver and also a little bit of pewter from Amsterdam. One of my favorite colors recently, some pewter and silver to give this kind of a warm silvery color. And this technique is, is the person that does this technique best is Kathleen from Cause Creations. She's a master of this technique. That's like all she does. Well, she does more things, but she is fantastic at this. And she's kind of, I'd say she didn't really invent the technique, but she's really embraced it and made it her own. And she's better than anyone else I know that does it, including me. So, this is very similar to a mixture that she would use. This is one that I've come up with, but I know she uses a lot of GAC 800 in her paints. She also uses Liquitex pouring medium. She uses a lot of golden fluid acrylics. So she uses a lot of really high quality products. These are just standard paints. There are no gold in any of these. But one of the most important things with this technique is you got to get the consistency correct. So the paint has to be thin, and you have to use metallics. For some reason, metallics really enhance the cells that are created from this technique. And I'm not exactly sure why, but it's a little bit similar to like the pearl pour, like Dwight does, and a lot of other people do. They use a lot of metallics. Something about the metallics creates the cells. So it must have to do with metallics and the mechanical friction, the swiping. With the like the pearl pour that Dwight does, he's not swiping with something, but he's really tilting his paint really quickly, which causes those pearls to pop up. So we got to use metallics, and then I'm going to be swiping with the black, and it's just standard, regular old black, like Artist Loft black. So what we're going to do is put a base coat down. We have to have a base coat. And there's two ways you could put it on. You could flood it on, like a lot of people flood it. Kathleen floods it, which is great. It's a great way to cover it, but you waste a lot of paint. I'm not a huge fan of flooding it, so I'm just going to pour it and spread it around. So with my palette knife. And we could do a little bit of a tilting as well. And I'd say you want a decent amount of paint, but not too much paint. And I think I got too much paint because it's all like puddling up over here. So I'm going to pull a little bit off. You could also tilt it off. One thing you could do, and it would be hard to demonstrate tonight, but maybe I'll do it at another time, is when I flood, or if I do flood the canvas, you could put down a piece of, you could put a tray with a piece of freezer paper in it, and tilt all the paint into your brand new freezer paper, then collect all the paint out of your freezer paper and just put it back in your cup. That's a great way to, save all the paint that you'd normally tilt off. So here we go. So the only thing we can't do with this method, I got to put gloves on. Got my backup gloves. And Susan has a question here. When my paint is that thin, my canvas shows through on the edges. Is it too thin? No, I don't think it's too thin. Well, it might be too thin, but I don't think so. That can happen with the thin paints. And one thing, like kind of what I just mentioned before, I had kind of pre-painted this canvas. That's a great idea to prevent that from happening. So you could just paint. You don't have to thin the paint or anything. Just paint it right out of the tube. Just paint the edges all the way around your canvas, and that should cover it. That should prevent the canvas from popping through. That's a good question, though. All right. And let's see here. Let me move this. So I'm going to just tilt this a little bit to even out the paint a little. It's pretty good, though. So here we go. I'm going to hide the formula, so we can see what's happening. All right, so again, there's a couple different ways to swipe. I'm going to kind of keep this fairly standard. Most often, people do center swipes. Kathleen does lots of center swipes where you pour your paints kind of in the center, close to the center. I don't recommend right in the center. It's really boring compositionally. So always move it up or down. I'm going to try to pour in kind of an arc and do something a little bit more fancy than just straight across. So, and one thing I'm going to do, it's hard to pour paint right out of these larger openings in these cups. So I'm going to transfer some paint into these smaller bath cups. I use that all the time. And you're able to get finer lines with these little cups. And I'll even put some of the silver in there. And so here we go. I'm going to just kind of start on the edge. And I'm just, freehanding that, just like kind of an interesting, arc, gentle curve. Here's a little bit of that silver. I'll put that on the top. And here's some of that purple. And you could use different colors swiping up and then swiping down. They don't always have to be the same. I'm going to put a little more gold on there. And Judy is asking what the base is. The base paint is silver and pewter, so it's all metallics in a kind of about 8-ounce cup I mixed up. So it's all metallics. Everything I'm using is metallics except for the black, which is just black from Artist Loft. And let's see here. I'll put a little bit of purple in the gold. And I think that's it. Now, another key for this kind of technique is to swipe with a darker color and kind of a heavier color. And that way you get a lot of contrast and the cells show up really well. So black is a very popular color to swipe with. It doesn't have to be black, but black works really good. I'm going to use it just because it works good and it's easy to see. So here we go. And the amount of black you put down, or the amount, the thickness, will decide kind of how much black is pulled down into the painting across it. So that was kind of a medium band, I guess. And let's see here, that'll work. So with that, I got all my colors on there. It's time to do a swipe. I'm going to do the same. Actually, I'm going to use a different. I've got just regular old white paper towels. I'm going to use these. And I found these work better. Like, damp paper towels work better than my swiping tools, the plastic swiping tools, because these create a little more friction. And again, what we were mentioning before, friction kind of helps create the cells. So I'm going to just start straight up and swipe. And I'm going to kind of swipe at an angle, not straight. I'm going to try to make this a little more interesting. And we were getting cells popping up, and we got a lot of black in there. So we'll just see what happens. And I'm going to use different sizes. I think I'll go over here. And nope, I got a little bit of black showing through, or went kind of too deep, but we could fix that later. I got an interesting line. Some people, that's, oh my gosh, I messed that up. But I kind of like, these different angles and things. I'm not too worried about that. So there we go. It's interesting. We got one in here. I'm going to take a smaller one. How's that? That would be good. Cool. All right. So we got something over here. We can maybe deal with this in a little bit. Let's do this one. And our cells are starting to happen over here, which I like. They kind of come up a little slower using this formula, because they're kind of just the way they happen. We're not heating anything up. They just kind of pop up on their own. And here, we'll go this way. And they should pop up here. And all right, I'll try a little tiny one right here. See if we could cover that. and it go right off the edge. I think it helped. So that should develop. So I'm going to flip it around. I think it's easier to just work towards you than trying to reach over the painting. And we'll continue. So I think I'll just stick with the black. The other thing we could do is we could swipe in the gold and pull the gold out. Maybe that'd be interesting. I mean, we kind of know what's going to happen with the black. I kind of like this interesting edge we have right here. So let's maybe swipe into the gold. You could always swipe again. So I'll try one here. It's going to be more subtle, obviously. And we're not seeing a lot of cells. They are starting to pop up. They're kind of small. So much more subtle, effect that we're getting. But so we can always go back and swipe with the black. I'm going to continue that and just see what we get. Okay, this should be the last one. There we go. That's an interesting look. Is it, let me flip it around. Just take a look at it from a different angle. So let's see. Judith is asking, is the black metallic? No, the black is not metallic. The black is just regular old black from Artist Loft, just the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic Black. So, well, I've looked at that enough. I'm going to just go back into the black and swipe it again. We'll see what we get. It's a little too subtle for me, I think. Now, this might be an interesting look because we're pulling up a little bit of the underneath color. So if that's the case, we could always add. See, I need to put a little more black in there. We could add a little more black to swipe with. Let's try that again. Okay, here's a big one. And here we go. So there we go. That's at least one version of a little more advanced formula swipe. It looks a little crazy because we went on all kinds of different angles. There's a lot of black in here, so we're not getting a lot of cells. Plus, we're double swiping over that. But that is basically the general idea. This technique is it's a little difficult to do because we're not using any kind of silicone or additives to generate our cells. So everything is a little more important. Consistency is a little more important. Paints we're using, the formula is a little more important. So if it doesn't, if you don't get amazing results immediately, don't get discouraged. This one takes a little bit of time to kind of figure out. And I'm still working at it. I haven't done a lot of these. It's a fun technique, but there's so many to choose from. So, but that is kind of the advanced swipe. So it's not a great one. I don't love it. We could fiddle around with it for, continue on it, but I think I'll leave it there. It's getting a little late, but so those are 3 different types of swipes. We covered a lot. So let me check and see if there are any questions that you might have before we break. And I'll flip it back here. So that was a lot of fun, I think. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun. We got 3 interesting swipes. The first one didn't go quite as planned. Sometimes they don't work out the way you plan them. The third one didn't quite go as planned, but we still got kind of an interesting look. And the cells are still kind of popping up. So, but if you have any questions, please throw them up in the comments. And I'll check on the second painting and see what's happened with that one. And Lily thinks it would look great if we accentuated it a little bit with a little bit of glitter or sparkle. We could do something like that. You have to let it dry. But you could always do that. You could make it a little more like a geode pour by adding some things like that, which would be fun. And let's see here. So I'm not seeing any other questions. So let's see here. Let me I'll let you take a look at this. I'm going to just take a look at our second painting. Let me pull this back up and just see if anything else has developed. And if so, I will bring it over fast and we can take a look at it. Just one quick sec. So it changed quite a bit, actually. So the cells continue to grow, which typically happens, especially with the varnish added. And they've covered a lot more area, which is cool, but I think it looks pretty incredible. So we've still got some smaller areas, like this purple is less in size, but it's still there. And the cells are just kind of grown together a little bit to create like a very interesting kind of pattern, kind of weaving through the entire painting. I love some of these cells. There are a lot of multicolored ones right up in here. These are all multicolored cells, red and blue together. These red ones in here are fantastic. It's just a very cool painting. And where the cells aren't, you can see little bits of the underpainting, we could call it, from before we swiped, the interesting lines and movement from our different swiping angles and directions. So I think this is a very cool painting. I'm really pleased with it. And I can't wait to see it dry, because it does look a little milky right now because it's still wet. And, you know, the varnish and the glue, once those dry and go clear and are transparent, all of the colors should pop back to life. So I think this one turned out very cool. My favorite of the evening, I think. So, all right. So let me flip back here. So thanks so much for joining me. I don't think I have any other questions, but this was a whole lot of fun. I hope you learned something or got some ideas or got inspired to try some swipes out. And if you do, please post them up in the Facebook group. That would be wonderful to see. And we're going to meet again on Friday for the open pouring demo. So hopefully I will see you there. And then later tonight, I will upload the replay of these paintings, as well as the tetradic color schemes that I have created for you. So thanks so much for joining me, everyone. And I really appreciate it. And great comments, great questions. And I hope to see you again very soon. Take care. Have a great evening. And hopefully I'll see you Friday.